All right. So now that we've gone through all of the cards, so based on what we've seen, how do you feel about Rin's pre-constructed deck? And I know you've gotten a chance to play it. Um,
So I haven't played his deck
oh,
specifically.
okay.
I've played with his cards. I'm not a huge fan of pre-constructed play, because to me one of the exciting parts of a card game is deck building and then seeing all like the different weaknesses and advantages of a deck and tuning it. That's what's fun to me.
Hmm.
So playing pre-constructed takes away that entire element, and it's just the play part, which is still fun, but it's like I'm missing half the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, pre-constructed is nice just to kind of like try out all the cards, see what the playtesters had to go through and had to deal with. Um, I do agree that I would rather play constructed. Um, However, I think like really getting like a good understanding of the basics and of how each deck is supposed to play by itself, because it's a little different. Pre-constructed in Ashes is a little different, I feel, than pre-constructed in something like Magic the Gathering, or like any of the other card games, collectible card games, I should say, because Android Netrunner also, I feel, is on the same venue of they have like a certain theme invested into each deck. Um, so just from um, looking through the cards, I feel like right off the bat, um, Ice Trap is definitely going to be something that is you're gonna want in your first five. You're gonna want, you.
Yeah.
It's nice in his pre-constructed deck. Freezing Blast definitely not really, not that much so, just because he already has so much Frog die already. Um,
Man, oof. I mean, in terms of a pre-constructed deck, looking at this list again, it seems like a pretty strong pre-constructed deck.
it does, yeah. I mean, I'm just looking through. When I was just looking through it, I was like, this is you're essentially just pumping out,
Giant things.
yeah,
And
two
like,
four Frostback Bear. I mean, if you're doing
what
precon versus precon, Ice Golem is gonna, you're gonna
it's going to be
be,
a 3/5.
yeah, it's guaranteed a 3/5, and that's something that you just have to deal with. Um,
Yeah, like I don't know what I mean, honestly, what do the other base set decks do against this? You have Fear and Jessa, and I think that's a valid answer.
hmm
And then Noah has Shadow Target, but the rest of his deck is awful.
hmm
So you miss out on that. I mean, Jaguar dies to Ice Trap. I guess you have Weenies. You have Weenies with
Yeah.
Aerodel that you can try to block, and then you have Water Blast.
Yep.
It's just, yeah. I mean, it's a scary precon, really. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you really have to either take care of the creatures before they of the units before they grow too big. Like essentially, the next turn that it comes out, or you just you know go on a blocking slash countering spree.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you could start Frostbite with the precon, summon Frostback Bear,
Mm-hmm.
summon Ice Golem, Ice Trap, and then you could say, okay, I'm gonna drop down this Frostbite, and then just you're on a counter. I'm just gonna start pinging you and put up a wall of bears and golems,
Yep. So
and
that's
that's it.
that right there. I mean, just being able to say, like you said, just putting down like a counter. Um, you you're putting it in your opponent's court, like, all right, so what are you gonna do? You're just, okay, I'm gonna play this unit, what are you gonna do it? uh, I don't really see very many other um, Phoenix born base sets being able to deal with this very well. Rin, I can see Rin dealing with it, but I don't know, like, I'm just thinking, I mean,
I mean,
Cole just kind of cries when he when he
He was
goes
like,
against
okay,
this.
you paid 3 for a 3/5 golem. I'll pay 6 for a rhino.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then on top of that, he can you can just block with the golem and then still deal one extra damage with a ping with a frog die, and you still come out on top. 4 mana versus their 6 again.
And then Cole's like, all right, 100 blades. Oh, it does nothing. Okay.
It could take
Just
out a Frostfang. That's
I could.
it
No, no,
could.
because you could pay a die and it stays alive.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Frostbang actually does better in pre-constructed because only Saria has the violinist.
yep. Yeah, I think Saria would be the. Oh no, because Saria doesn't have anything except for the charm die to boost.
Well, she does have she does have battle advantage ravens for bears,
Right.
but there's ice buff, so it kind of messes that up.
Yeah, but she would have to start boosting up her ravens with her charm dice in order to actually um, beat Rin.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
beat out his units at least.
She's got the owl though. The owl's not. It's like a good one. You know, it's one of those efficient one die units that is a 1/2 that blocks and dies right away, so you can replenish your field.
That's true.
But Rin has Battlefield 6, and Saria has Battlefield 5. So
Yeah.
if he just waits, then he can just swing in.
Yep. Um, all right. So what about constructed play? So I mean, we have a ton of really good cards. We've got Ice Trap. We've got the Frostback Bear. Even
Yep.
even like Crystal. Well, not Crystal Shield. Rin's Fury.
Rin's Fury.
Um, these are all cards that are insanely powerful, and
And Deep Freeze. I know you don't appreciate it yet, but trust me, you're gonna come to appreciate Deep Freeze.
I think I will. I don't know if I'd play more than just one in a deck though. I don't. I mean,
Oh, it's so good when you play more than one because if you have more than one out at the same time, it gets that much better.
yeah.
Because now, if you played 2 Deep Freezes on your opponent, which I did this in the game,
Uh-huh.
they're like, well, that's 6 side actions that I need to take that I can't use for anything else. I can't use it for meditation and I can't use it for pinging.
Uh-huh.
And if they don't have main actions available for stalling, especially since 2 units are now frozen, so those units can't be used for attacks to stall main action, that's basically 2 battlefield that's tied up. It's really strong. It's really strong.
Okay. That's actually one of the cards that I thought was very anti Mayoni. Like starting off, freezing blast. It screams. Snakes go back to I don't know, like hibernation or something.
Go back
Uh,
to.
I know snakes don't hibernate, uh, but like yeah. So freezing blast, deep freeze. What else? What else?
Regress. It's not here, but
It's not here. Regress, but
blood chains.
yeah. Even Frostback Bear. Like Mayoni really needs her snakes to be unexhausted and in the action. I mean, the snake's consumability doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be unexhausted to use it. It's an inexhaustible ability, but still, like you're missing out on a lot of damage if the Frostback Bear decides to I'm going to put a freeze counter on it, or like I'm going to use freeze 1 on it. It takes away a lot of Mayoni's damage, and I think See, I don't think snakes are going to be very viable in this next expansion.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because there are definitely a lot of cards that can stop snakes in these two expansion decks, like a
Yeah.
lot. So much so that I'm like, man, they were just like, screw you, Mayoni. We really don't want you to be played anymore. For
Well,
even though no one, like, not many people were playing her anyway. But uh, but it's weird, right? Because if you don't see Mayoni, a lot of Mayoni, then maybe you say, well, I don't play the cards that hurt her as much. Um, it's kind of weird, right? No one's probably going to be playing Freezing Blast, except maybe a tempo deck. So you show me the light. I think a tempo deck that says, okay, I need to remove stuff quickly and control the field. Maybe they play Freezing Blast. But for the most part, everybody else is going to say, no, I don't need that card.
but the thing is, I mean, if you with your prediction of deep freeze being used pretty often, like even deep freeze,
Yeah.
uh, putting a deep freeze on a snake essentially ties up that battlefield slot, and she
Yep.
now only has two.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's one die.
Um,
That's one die, one card doing that.
right. Exactly. And then of course you've got the not to mention if you have three deep freezes. If you are so lucky to draw like Colin three of the same card in one round and be able to play all three on a unit,
I mean, it's over for Mayoni. I don't know what
yeah,
she does. It's over.
yeah, exactly. I feel like at that point, even just tying up two slots like that itself, she can't bounce back from that. Um, so yeah, I feel like a lot of the cards that are coming out are just gonna they're gonna keep Mayoni at bay. But I will say that I am trying a Frostback Bear and No Snake, Frostback Bear, and Dread Wraith deck with Mayoni. I think, I mean, Deep Freeze is an issue now that I'm thinking about it. But I don't know. What if I put in Cut the Strings on that? And, Dread Wraith
And
can
you hit
benefit
Dread
from
Wraith?
it.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting. It's interesting.
yeah.
Man, so that three battlefield is something I can't live with. I love her strike ability, but man, I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. I feel like three battlefield constrains me so much.
The way I see it, though, there are a lot of high life units that are decently expensive. Frostback Bear and Dread Wraith, especially. And I feel like they will. I feel like Mayoni doesn't really need to play that many units, especially if let's say she's got 2 unit slots for Bear and one for Dread Wraith. Like that right there is a pretty decent battlefield, and then the rest of her deck can just be filled with direct damage. You know.
So yeah, Dread Wraith is especially good there because Dread Wraith is one of those few units that if you block and don't counter, your opponent says, "Oh, right?"
Yeah.
Right now, if someone blocks and doesn't counter, you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, I took damage. I didn't. Not bad." With Dread Wraith, you're like, "Oh, I made this thing a threat, and now I have nothing to block it." So it's interesting. It's a very interesting card.
Yeah. Yep. Um. I could say so much about Dread Wraith.
That's for next time.
Yeah, that's definitely for next time. But going back to like Frostback Bear and Rin's deck in general. Now at Tulsa, do you feel like
Bears.
it's just gonna be a
It's gonna
huge
be so many
marathon?
bears. It's gonna be so many bears at Tulsa.
Do you feel like a lot of people are gonna be playing Rin more?
No, actually, based off of the pre-orders, we can predict that there will be a lot more Brennens than there will be Rins. at Tulsa, just because people like he's straightforward, right?
Yeah.
He says, "Oh, I'm just gonna just throw damage at you, just nonstop, gonna keep throwing damage." I hope to take advantage of that at Tulsa,
Hmm.
because they're gonna be throwing damage, and then they're gonna have an empty battlefield, and I'm gonna hit them for more than they're throwing. But you know,
Um, let me bring back. Let me go back to Rin for a minute or two. Now, Rin has 4 spellboard. What do you think is going to be his? What do you think is going to be his style of play? Like, do you feel like
bear.
do you feel like it's
Put
going to
out
be a lot
bears.
of? Do you think it's going to be a lot of
Bears.
like
Yeah.
what do you call it? 4 book? Do you think that there's going to be 4 book using bears?
I think we'll
Um,
see for Bookerin. I mean, he definitely has the stats for it, right? Battlefield or Spellboard 4, Battlefield 6. It's got a nice ice buff ability that can make a cheap unit that more troublesome to deal with.
uh-huh.
But I still don't think 4 book is the best way to use him.
What do you feel like the best way to use them is?
Well, I gotta keep some secrets.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
gotta keep some
Oh,
secrets.
are you playing Rin? Are you gonna be playing Rin?
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, I'm down to 3. I'm either playing Rin, Brennan, or Noah. I just gotta decide.
Okay.
Most
All right.
likely Rin. The
Yeah.
only reason I'm tempted to play Noah is also because of bears. Just because Shadow Target does work against bears.
um, it doesn't help later though.
Right, it
In
has
the
to be
round.
an early aggressive deck.
Yeah.
So it's like early aggro, you shut down their bears, you hit them when they were expecting to have a bear. Maybe you put out your own bears, so you have bear advantage, which is going to be the new thing.
Um, what about heavy exhaust, Rin? Do you think that's gonna be something that's likely or possible? With bears, of course.
With
Heavy
bears, of
exhaust
course.
with bears.
Oh man, these questions. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes
Uh,
sense.
okay, so let's see. All right, so what I've been pretty much doing with my Rin deck, because unfortunately I'm not going to be able to go to Tulsa. I had to choose between either Tulsa or Gen Con, and Gen Con kind of won out. Um, but anyway, so what I've been pretty much doing is I decided to try a ceremonial natural, or I should say natural ceremonial 6/4 Rin, just because I feel like, especially since the 2 new decks are going to be monocolored. Um, it's just there's just way too much good stuff in between the ceremonial and the natural card log at the moment to not do those 2 dice types only.
I mean, I was playing Ceremonial Natural before this expansion.
Right. Yeah.
Ceremonial Natural Illusion, and yeah, adding more cards to them is not going to make me switch from that too much.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some say you could also take the approach from and say, well, now that there's more nature cards, maybe I don't need to rely on ceremonial,
Hmm.
right? And I can pull from other things now and just splash other colors and pull the majority from nature. You could say the same thing about ceremonial. So it
Yeah.
does, in a weird way, add flexibility outside of the colors. It's just, I mean, so all the dice abilities are pretty strong, the dice power abilities.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like nature and ceremonial, and I mean, I think charm's the weakest one because it's marginally useful, situationally useful. Whereas nature is super useful. Well, at least it has been, right? Being able to ping something for 1 damage and remove a 1 unit versus not having that ability. Like, let's say your opponent plays Fire Archer for 1 ceremonial die. Well, if I don't have any nature dice, I have to find some other way to kill this thing. Um, and now it becomes a 1/1 that's taking up battlefield to block or can attack me, which
Yeah.
is pretty annoying. I mean, when I have played decks with no nature in them, I've always regretted it and said, man, I wish I had at least 1 nature die so I could ping something. So nature's very strong in that aspect. Ceremonial, on the other hand, you don't always have to play allies, and you might not even want to recur allies if they're just big guys.
Hmm.
So maybe you don't need ceremonial as much. I feel like nature is one of those, is that color that you might need to play, especially because bears now. I
Yeah.
feel like a winning deck needs to have nature in it.
I
Molten
think.
golden bears, molten bears. That's
Yep. Yeah. No, I definitely. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I do feel the same way you do. That pretty much any deck that comes out from now on, it's gonna have molten gold and it's gonna have bears, or it's gonna have nature, just because of the molten gold and bears. Um, Otherwise, there's just no way that they can keep up the damage.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think about? Because we also see Hammer Knights used extensively.
No, I
Um,
love Hammer Knight. It's like
yeah.
my favorite ally.
Do you feel like because of the Bears that there's going to be less Hammer Knights? Like they're very many people will consider them, or it'll be
No.
considered, but they might say, all right, well, I do have a 2/3 unit already that I don't need a power die to play.
No, I mean, it's not like playing Hammer Knight makes my bears worse. I can play both. That's the way
Yeah.
I see it. It's like I want Hammer Knights and bears.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely choose both as well, but let's say that they want to play a particular. Um, let's say they are trying to consider all their options, and they have to choose either Bears or Hammer Knights. Um,
I mean, I
if
think
you
that's
had to
what you
choose,
just said. What you just said, I think, is going to be the choice people end up making now. The choice in deck building is going to be: do I want bears or do I want Hammer Knight or do I want both? Like, I'm gonna have one of them.
yeah. Which one would you consider first? Which one would you choose over the two?
It depends on the deck. I mean, it
I
really
mean,
depends on the deck.
if you
Bear,
have
but the answer is bear. The answer is definitely bear.
okay, all right.
Just because bear is well, so there's pros and cons to both.
Mm-hmm.
Hammer Knight's an ally, so it's immediate. It's immediate threat on the field. Hammer Knight has 4 damage that it deals. It has an aftershock ability, which is super useful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's I mean it's good. Bears are slower because you have to play the book first,
Right.
and then you got to summon the bear. But you can summon one every single round for 2 dice, just off of 1 book. But there's also cards that can stop books, like Shadow Target
Yep.
or Seal. And to my knowledge, there's nothing that stops this Hammer Knight from being summoned, right? Once it's on the
Right.
field, you can stop it, but anything you can stop it with on the field is the same thing you can use on a bear. So it's they cancel out in that regard.
Um, for me, I feel like if I had to choose between um, if I had to choose between Hammer Knight or a Bear, and I have the same, I have the decks with me, or I have the dice for both of them. Chances are I would probably choose Bear as well. I feel like the utility that the Bears bring is just way too good to pass up. Um, and uh, let's face it. I mean, if like you said, if I could do both, I'm gonna do both.
And it's
But
only 5 die or 6 dice in the first round and 5 on the future round. That's great.
yes, I know.
You get some awesome beefy stuff.
Yeah, because you're essentially paying 6 dice for 6 life, and then the next rounds you're paying. If you have another Hammer Knight to play, you're paying five dice for
6
six
life
life.
and 7 damage to the face if
Yeah,
it hits the face. Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah. Not only that, but then you've got the aftershock effect as
You
well.
got freeze
Yep,
effect. Yep.
and then the freeze as well. Um, yeah. So I think that's pretty much everything. I mean, this is. I feel like we're probably going to have a lot more to talk about next week when we talk about Brennen, just because then we'll have both Rin and Brennen out there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be some interesting things. Brennan's deck has a lot of very interesting cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of utility,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like now that I'm thinking about it, Brennen has a lot of utility, but he's very straightforward. His Phoenixborn himself, whereas
Yeah.
Rin, I feel like it's just like units, just spam units. But he has uh, his deck is pretty straightforward. I feel.
I mean, his deck is pretty much Ren's deck is pretty straightforward with the meta right now. It's put out big guys, kill their guys, swing, right? That's
Right.
that's what he does.
But we'll have to see. Brennan can definitely set up some really nice combos, though. All right, so was there anything else that you wanted to say that you...
Yeah, Ren's haircut is on point. Fernanda did a great job cutting his hair.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very stylish, very modern.
We definitely, yeah. I mean, I didn't even get a chance to talk about the art. I will. Let me just quickly go through like all of this. I love the art on all these cards, especially Ice Buff. I think Ice Buff, like especially with the snowflakes,
Yeah.
you can really tell that she went through and did a lot of work just trying to make sure that each card felt unique, and they really do.
Yeah. I think Ice Buff is the card that's going to show us Frostfang the most because no one's going to play Frostfang, but everyone will be using Ice Buff if they play Ring. So that's where you'll see the art for Frostfang the most.
And is that main action actually talked about what she's wearing? Is she wearing the masked wolf? Is that the masked wolf
No,
hide?
the Masked Wolf is white though, right? The Masked Wolf is white with red markings on
Uh huh.
its face.
Here,
Well,
let's bring up Matt. Oh yeah. You're right. You're right. So I'm curious what creature she's actually she has, because I mean, up until now, I don't know which card that I'm thinking about, but most of the other cards usually have something that,
referencing another card.
yeah, that references everything else, or another card in the World of Ashes.
So maybe we're going to be getting another, like there's that Frostbite frog in Rin's picture hanging off
Yeah.
his lantern there.
Yep.
Maybe we're going to get another wolf. I mean, it'd be pretty cool to have a wolf deck. Werewolf deck. A werewolf
Werewolf.
Phoenixborn that summons wolves.
That
There
would
you
be
go.
pretty sweet. That would be pretty sweet. Let's see. All right. And then freezing blast, like you said, Kamehameha. It's pretty
Yeah.
sweet.
Rin's
Uh,
Fury is him powering up, going Super Saiyan.
Yep. Rin's Fury is, or he's pooping.
Or he's pooping. I like the poop. So I asked Isaac at the tournament about alternate art, or like custom art versions or proxies of cards. Like if we can use them in a tournament. He's like, I want to say no because I want people to buy the game. It's just the base set. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what if I just wanted to do my own alt art version of Ren's Fury and just like draw some poop on it? Put a poop sticker. Is that against the rules? Because you know how Magic has the rules for tournament play, where as long as the the name, the original art, and the text is all visible,
Hmm.
you can paint anywhere else, and the card is tournament legal.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna probably get. I mean, it's not as big a deal in Ashes since I mean the art is fantastic and takes up most of the card, and I
Yeah.
actually like the background how like subtle it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too.
But you know, with these alt art cards like the alt art Miss Spirit coming out, maybe people will say, well, I want to do my own full art cards and just extend the artwork around the borders, and then we're gonna need some tournament rulings here on what's legal, what's not.
Yeah. I am gonna be so jealous of people with those misspirits. Like I know I'm gonna go to Gen Con and everybody's gonna be like, yeah, I've got a playset of misspirit, alt art misspirits. It's whatever,
Well,
And
aren't you gonna? They're gonna be in the AOP kits.
yeah, but I mean, most of the Ashes games that I play are through Tabletop Simulator or just random like friends who decide to come over and play like pre-cons or something. Um,
So I don't know if people know this, but I posted on Facebook about the idea of having an Ashes tournament through Tabletop Simulator online
yes.
and having it streamed. It might be possible to, I mean, maybe I could talk to Plaidhat and see. It'd be awesome if we could get an organized play kit
Ooh,
for that and I just mail it to the winners.
yeah, that would be really cool. That would be really nice. Um, yeah, I mean,
So that could be cool to do.
I think that's really that's something that's definitely a good way to get like more people involved. Because I know, I mean, it's really hard trying to do big tournaments in just one area. Like, if it was just a little bit up north, a little bit more up north for the Tulsa event. Well, I mean, for events like Tulsa, I would be able to go to it, but just the fact that it's so far away, there's a lot of people that can't go, especially a lot of Canadians. Like, you see such a huge following of Ashes in
You
Canada.
do.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, anyway.
Well, I'm gonna be at Gen Con also. I got my ticket, so
Nice. All right.
I'll make the rounds this year.
um, yeah, so
Um,
I'm just kind of going through all the
we could see if there's any questions maybe from viewers.
yes. Are there any questions, any comments that you'd like to shout out?
They
There's
were.
a small delay, so
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh, During the delay, I guess I'll say, all right. So Papa Pratt says, "Boo Gen Con, yay Tulsa." Um, Papa Pratt, you should go to Gen Con.
I mean, Gen Con and Tulsa are like Hammer Knight and Frostback Bear. Like you gotta you if you have to you choose one, but you know why not just do both?
That one I definitely. That one's just way too expensive for me. It's for me. It's more than just 6 dice. It's using up all 10. So real quick, I'll just say that Plaid Hat Games has made an amazing ECG, expandable card game, and it is definitely one that I never expected to get so involved with. Um, I mean, when I first started, I was like, it was mainly just because I was in a huge board game phase. But then when I started playing it, it was so so enthralling just to start off from like the beginning. Start off from the beginning of a new ECG, and not have to deal with something like Android Netrunner's, backlog of 20 different expansions.
Yeah, I mean, and I 100% agree. I love the release schedule. I will say though that I mean, just all these months we spent with the base set and just all of the deck building iterations we've gone through have
Mm-hmm.
been massive. And so I think that even with just a base set and these two expansions for a new player, while it's cheap cost wise, the learning curve for deck building is gonna be crazy steep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean they're gonna see all these cards and just because there's basically no rule limitation for deck building in this game. Other games have, typically they have restrictions on how many cards from outside of faction you can put in, or you have color limitations. You
Mm-hmm.
have color limitation in Ashes, but it's only to the extent that you want it because you can still choose your dice spread and you start with all your mana.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more open. Uh, I mean, that's like probably the most daunting part of Ashes. It's not going to be the cost, but just the sheer number of possibilities for decks.
Yep. Yeah. I definitely agree. Um, and I mean, there have been some people that have said, like right now it seems like a lot of the deck styles are just one. It's essentially just one, just direct damage, damage drop. But to be honest, I feel like at the beginning of even something like Magic the Gathering, it was a lot of also one deck style, you know?
Yeah.
And as we flesh out, as we get more cards and we flesh out more strategies, I think Ashes is going to pull out above when it comes to different types of decks and different strategies and different ways to win, you
Oh, it's
know?
gonna get scary. Because like
Yeah.
right now, with my cold deck, I feel pretty confident going into a match. Because I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, I know what the possibilities are, and I know how to handle them.
Yeah.
As we get more deck types out, there's gonna be decks that you're like, man, I really don't want to play against this deck because I have a
Hmm.
hard time. And there's other decks you're like, ooh, I love playing against this deck. It's easy.
Yeah.
And most of them are probably gonna be, okay, this is gonna be Ashes is such a game that's so much about how well you play it that I mean, that's one of the big draws to it for me. It's a lot about skill of play.
Yes. All right. So, try and kill me says or asks, do you think freeze on a unit in the future is as crazy as the possibility of seeing gaze on a unit in the future?
I think he's referring to the freeze ability on the bear and the
Yeah.
gaze ability on Jaguar, and the
Yeah.
possibility of seeing them on future units.
I think we definitely will see freeze on more units. Gaze. I don't know. Uh,
I hope not.
Try and kill me. Try and kill me does have a pretty big problem with gays, as we know from the main action podcast. But I think gaze is just a lot more. It's just too efficient for something that is going to be on a non-Phoenix-born unique card. Um,
Yeah, so gaze, the way it's phrased on Jaguar, it's gaze one,
yeah.
which means that there exists a possibility that there could be a gaze two or a gaze three.
Yes.
Now, if those each cost the same number of dice, so Gaze 2 would cost 2 dice, or a Gaze 3 ability costs 3 dice, it's kind of an interesting card.
Yeah.
Um, because, I mean that's really strong, I still think. Being able to pay 3 dice to say that battlefield slot's locked is pretty strong.
Yeah.
But it does create an interesting choice now whether you want to spend those dice. And then you can't do that more than, you know, once really around without. I mean, you can do it twice, and then you're pretty much out of dice. If you do it 3 times, you're out of dice. You're not doing anything else.
Yeah. Um, the way I see it though is, um, if they do decide to use gaze, put gaze on another unit, um, I don't think that it's really something that they can. I don't know. It's just way too because when you're using freeze, you have to attack in order to do that. You have to attack. With gaze, you just have to have it out. That's it.
Yeah,
And um, that's one of the reasons why I don't feel like Plaidhat will put gaze on a unit that isn't Phoenixborn specific.
I mean, they could. So, I mean, you could balance it in different ways, right? You could say, okay, let's make it cost more than its life, and then give it a heavy gaze cost. So, like you say, okay, it's a gaze 3, maybe it's a gaze 2 unit, so it costs 2 dice to gaze. It costs you 3 dice to put it out, or 2 dice to put it out, and it's a 0/1, 0 recover. Now
Hmm.
you're like, okay, it's dangerous to put that out. Maybe it's useless now because it's a 0/1. But there's other ways to go around balancing that mechanism.
Yeah,
uh, you
but
increase the
it's
risk of that playing the unit.
hmm but it's also, I mean, it's also like you said with the gaze three. Yes, you've spent 3 dice, but then you essentially lock down their board. I mean,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
really strong.
on top of that, if you decide, okay, well, I'm going to gaze, lock down that creature, and then Rose Fire Dancer, and lock down another board slot.
Ooh,
You
what if there
know,
was a unit that it did like a soft gaze, where it's basically like putting deep freeze on a unit. It grabs an
oh yeah,
alteration and puts it on a unit, and it's exhausted, but they can spend side actions to unexhaust it. That'd be pretty cool.
I think that would be really cool. Yeah, yeah, I would like to see that happen. Um, all right, so freeze on a unit in the future. I think we will see freeze on a unit in the future. I think freeze is a very good ability, and it gives a lot of it gives a lot of utility to otherwise, like, even if let's say um, Frostfang had a freeze alteration on it. If you were playing it and it was like it was playable, I feel like it would be a
So
I feel
freeze
like it
on
would be pretty
Frostbang
good.
is crazy, right? Because it
Yeah,
has battle advantage, which
right.
means you can freeze it and then it can't counter anymore,
Yeah,
which is interesting. That'd be pretty cool.
I think that would be really really cool to see. Like freeze on another unit or even freeze in general as an alteration. Um, all right, let's see. So Crispy Rat says, with the focus on ceremonial and nature, do you see any other dice having tremendous effects in Tulsa or at Gen Con?
This is a loaded question. He knows my answer. No
Yeah.
comment. No comment. The answer is yes.
I'll answer the question. I think because you mentioned it, you kind of mentioned it before, how charm is a very weak dice type, dice power compared to the rest of them, and I think that we definitely won't really see very much charm, other than to be able to pay for something like Gilder or even uh, I don't know, maybe even you might have some hypnotized decks out there. I mean, that's definitely
Yeah.
something that um,
You might have some sympathy painters out there.
yes, yep. Sympathy pain is also a big one.
And then I
But
mean, Open Memories is a good card.
yeah, I don't really see myself playing it all that often though. Um, Open Memories, while it is a really nice way to just get a unit or get a card and not have to tell the opponent what card you got. Um, the fact that you can, the fact that you, the fact that you, draw up to 5 anyway, um, the fact that you draw up to 5 anyway, um, the fact that you draw up to 5 anyway, um, the fact that you draw up to 5 anyway, um, the fact that you draw up to 5 anyway, um, the fact that you draw up to 5 anyway, um, the fact that you draw up to 5 anyway, the fact that you draw up to 5 anyway, makes me feel like Open Memories isn't like it's situational. It's a
So
situational card.
right, and I think the situation for Open Memory. I mean, the only way I've ever played Open Memories is one copy for first five, so I can have two copies of the same card.
Right.
Um, and I think that's the purpose of Open Memories is get two copies of the same card in your first five, and then maybe down the line it's going to have a role as get a Focus 2 ability out if there's a great Focus 2 ability.
Um, I don't know if I would ever see a Focus 2 ever being like played, you know? Cuz
It'd have to be really good. Like, really good.
it would have to be so good that it's like broken if it was played for me to play it, because you're essentially hoping that those all three cards are gonna be played before the game ends.
And you're
Um,
not meditating one of them off.
and you're not meditating one of them off. But meditation aside, um, because I know that meditation isn't like a um, determining factor for what am I trying to say? There was like a huge Slack argument
Yeah.
debate about that, and basically, I understand that meditating doesn't really play into like as a downside to um,
So let's add this to the equation. If there's a card that comes out that lets you bring back a spellboard card from your trash, from your discard, now is Focus 2 something that's more playable?
yes. At that point, I would say definitely. Um, because you could essentially meditate until because you effectively you have four of that if you're playing, four, or if you're playing that card that can
Hmm.
bring spellboard cards out of your grave, or discard pile. So let's say you have like three, you have one Open Memories, three of those spellboard retrieval cards, and then you've got the Focus 3. That means you've got seven. Essentially, you've got seven cards.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right. Essentially, you've got seven of the cards, seven chances to get that Focus 2 out. So yeah.
Yes, yeah, right. I think we got lost with the question. My answer is yes.
All right. So Try and Kill Me asks, does this new world have a place for Jessa? Jessa likes weenie creatures, weenie units. Um, I think because of Frostback Bear and because of things like Dread Wraith, you'll have you'll have trouble with Jessa, but then again, why not just play Frostback Bear in Jessa? Or, Ice Trap in Jessa, all these
Yeah,
things.
I don't know. I don't know if Jessica's going to be in that much trouble. I mean, she's not going to play the same that she usually plays,
Hmm.
right? She's not going to be able to ping as many things dead like she normally does. But her ability doesn't stop working. She can still remove things which you're going to want to do and then deal the direct damage.
But I think the chances of her, like, I mean, other than fear, she really doesn't have a, um,
So what I love about, well, there's interesting things with Jessa, but what I love about this expansion is that they added a lot of soft removal,
Mm-hmm.
which deals with units without removing them from the board, which is
Yes.
awesome because that means Jessa can't screams when that happens.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. At the same time, they also added a lot of sacrificing abilities, which she could trigger screams off of. Like against Brennen, she's like, okay, well, I get a free ping on him every round,
Yeah.
as long as I have a die available.
Yep.
But then again, Brennen has 20 life, and he's going to be dealing 2 to you, while you're dealing 1 to him. So he's, in that sort of a race, maybe.
Yeah. That's actually something that's very interesting that you bring up because I feel like against Brennen, she's a bit more evenly matched. Against Rin, she doesn't really know what. I mean, I don't really see Jessa being able to beat Rin consistently, just because Rin's gonna have dice advantage. He's gonna
Yep.
have the bears.
Check.
And
He's
his
going to have the ice buff.
yeah, his ice buff is going to be able to protect whatever, if Jessa decides, oh, I want to kill your I'm going to kill your 1/2 unit. So I'm going to deal 1 damage to that this turn. And then she has to wait another turn. Then Rin can just be like, all right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and attach an ice buff for free, making you have to spend another 2 dice to kill it.
Yep, and it's free for him to do that.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a rough fight. That's going to be a tough fight.
At this point, I feel like Rin is going to be coming out on top at top tier.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that because of Rin's Fury and because of Ice Buff. There is a 2 ability, his unique card and his ability both give him mana advantage. Ice Buff is free. I think everybody else's Phoenix Born ability costs something in addition to a side action, or it costs a side action or it costs a die or a card.
Yeah.
Like Cole costs a side action and a card. Justice just costs a die, and then everybody else's costs a side action with a die. Or except for Mayoni, I guess. Mayoni still just costs a die. But his is completely free. It's just a side action. So that's actually mana advantage over the other Phoenixborn. Or resource advantage is a better way to say it. It's resource advantage.
Yeah.
And Rin's Fury is also huge resource advantage.
All right. So I think I'm gonna start wrapping things up. One thing that I do want to ask you, Eric, because I feel like I think it was you that told me you and I both don't really like to play the top tier decks, correct?
Yeah,
Like you try to
I can
find
say I've
something.
never played Jessa. I will say I've never played Jessa.
I mean, that's pretty much the same thing with me. I pretty much refuse to play Jessa because I know she can win, and I know that it's very easy to do so. Do you, if Rin starts going up to top tier, do you feel like you're gonna abandon him?
Well, I mean, I feel like Cole could be top tier right now. If the base set would go a little longer and people started picking him up, I think we could see Cole giving Jessa a run for her money in tournaments. Like if expansions weren't going to come out and people started playing him, he'd be top. I think he could be top tier. He's actually probably slightly below Jessa. If he had a little bit more life, maybe he'd be better off. But I didn't stop playing him. I mean, I see what you're saying. Nobody else was playing him, so that's why I kept playing him.
Yeah.
And if everybody started picking him up, I don't know. I'm not so hipster that I'm gonna just stop liking something because somebody else starts to like it. But Rin is a different case. Rin is because it's brand new. It's everyone's first time. The cool thing is, I think everyone's gonna be honeymooning with Brennen, so I don't think Rin's gonna be that guy until later down the road, but
Yeah.
he could very possibly turn into the new Jessa.
Uh, yeah. I'll say it like when I first saw Brennen, I was on Team Brennen, but I actually recently changed over to Rin after I saw
Oh yeah.
how powerful the bears are. All right, so I guess we'll just start wrapping up, and I'm just gonna say a few things about the Ashes Online forum board on Facebook. So it is once again, it's a very good community for um, Ashes, like rulings, Ashes, just anything you need to know in general. It's a great resource. There's a lot of really cool people. If you're already on there and you're just, you're lurking and, you don't actually know what to ask or what to say, just, um, just
Yeah, guys,
start talking.
1,170 people are lurking. Come
Yeah.
on.
Just start talking, start saying whatever that comes to your mind. I mean, treat it like an Ashes random board. I know
Yeah.
Papa Pratt says a lot of random things on there. Um,
I mean, the main action podcast, they don't even talk about Ashes most of the time at the beginning.
yeah,
It's
right.
like just talk about Olive Garden if you want in Ashes Online.
And then there's also the Ashes Rules .slack.com. It's a Slack channel. They've got I guess, four channels up on the site. Check out my deck, Random Rules and Strategy. It is also a very good resource, and something that was that's really nice is you can once you sign up and log on to it, you can check out like all the backlog too. So you can check out anything that's been previously talked about. You can lurk on there if you want too.
Oh man, you can lurk for hours on
Oh,
there. We
I
have so
know.
much on there right now.
Yeah, when I first joined up, I think I spent 3 hours just sifting through all the comments on strategy alone. It's a very good resource, and there are some really really cool people in there. Um, and then of course I can't forget about the Main Action podcast. They are an amazing group of fans of Ashes. Three guys, Christian Pratt, Colin Flores, and Kean Michael Jones. They know what they're talking about. Kean has won a tournament. Christian has won a tournament. Colin has won a tournament.
No,
Right?
no, no,
Has
no.
he?
Colin hasn't.
Oh, Colin
Colin
hasn't.
hasn't.
I'm
Yeah, they're gonna
sorry,
put him in for
Colin.
that.
I'm sorry to put you up on. Oh man, awkward. Um,
Awkward.
yeah. So 2 out of 3 of them have won tournaments. So check that out. But Colin does have those crazy Colin mad giveaways.
He does. The Bugatti's coming up.
Yeah, Bugatti's coming up, so you gotta, if you want a Bugatti, Main
Bugatti is
Action
made entirely
Podcast.
out of Miss Spirits. It's made entirely out of all part Miss Spirits, actually.
Even better. I hear alt-art Miss Spirits are really climbing in price. I think they're gonna, I mean, an all alt-art Miss Spirit Bugatti, it's gonna be
Yes.
worth more than Bugatti itself. Definitely.
We
Um,
shouldn't neglect the guys at the Ashtray podcast.
yes.
It's
The
great to have another podcast to listen to, especially if they do every week that the main action is not doing a
yeah.
podcast. You got something every week.
They're also a really good resource. I actually listened to. I'm only on their first podcast, but they actually have Bob Klotz, the lead playtester, on um, for their first one, and they discuss the all the rulings on the FAQ. So if you are confused at all with the FAQ, with the FAQ, definitely check that podcast out. And they also have some really really good stuff planned out for the rest of their podcast shows. And then of course Eric, you've got the tabletop simulator
League.
league tournament. It is a free online tournament. We play for fun, but it is a great way to test out. If you want to test out new decks against the top decks, then
Yeah.
that's you
If
can
you want to
definitely
get
do that.
better, if
If
you
you
want
want
to
to
get
get
better at
better,
the game, it's a
hmm
great way to do it. I mean, you have some really, really good players on there.
yes,
So you're going to get a lot of high level play exposure if you do that. It's great practice.
yep,
I will say that at this time, I have a lot of people that are not as excited to play League because the expansion comes out in 2 weeks, really, and everyone's excited to try the new cards, so the old cards aren't as tempting anymore. I have a feeling the League is going to explode after the expansion gets released on the Tabletop Simulator to the public,
yeah.
so just be ready for that.
So yeah, so there's that to look forward to, and then of course you've got the Tulsa event, April 15 and 16. Um, what else? Then the official release is the week after, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, really exciting stuff coming up in April. And I think that's about it.
Yeah. Um, I'll be looking also. Guys, if you don't have Tabletop Simulator, you gotta get it. I mean, it's not that expensive and it's awesome. I've played so much Ashes on there.
Yeah.
It's just, and then if you love Secret Hitler, that's the place to play it. That's the place to play it. Uh, but coming in May, probably the second or third week of May, depending on what people vote for, we'll be hosting the first Ashes Online Tabletop Simulator tournament.
Oh,
So it's not going to
nice.
be league style like we're doing now. So the league is 2 games a week that you play against pre-assigned opponents, and then you report the results. And every week you play 2 games. The tournament's going to be one day. It's going to be just like a tournament in real life at a shop. Depending on the turnout, we're going to do several rounds of Swiss. I will most likely be cutting to the a top 8 bracket just because I think that's the best way to handle Ashes.
hmm
And we're gonna hopefully get that streamed. Definitely gonna get it streamed, and hopefully have some nice commentators watching the matches and talking about them as they're going on. We'll probably need an hour-long delay just so there's no cheating,
Yeah,
but
or
it's gonna be
sniping.
pretty
Yep.
cool. Yep.
Um, and then finally, once again, I mean, if you don't have Ashes, the physical card game, you need to buy it. It's not even a if you want it, you should get it, but it is a you need it. You need this in your life.
At least
Um,
one copy.
at
At
least one
least one.
copy. It
I mean, I'm
is
ready for my second.
if you are interested in card games, if you are interested in strategy games, this is this combines the best of both worlds. This combines dice, cards, and just I think I described it as Magic meets Hearthstone meets chess because
Yep.
that's how much strategy there is, and um, so I think that's it. That's all we've got. Thanks to Isaac Vega for creating this amazing game. And we will see you next week for the Brennen preview, in-depth preview.
Yep. Emo Brennan.